All right. Well, from one bit of advice to another, from Nick to Nick, it's the all Nick all the time Friday show. Nick Hopwood joining me, certified financial planner, founder and president of Peak Wealth. This week, of course, was tax time, and it's a time that a lot of people take time to think about. Okay, where am I? How much tax am I paying? But there's other things you should be thinking about. Where are you with your will, your trust? How are things set up? That's something that I always think about this time of the year, Nick, to make sure I kind of revisit certain things at certain times of the year. It's kind of like, an annual checkup or check-in, if you will. Good to see you, first of all. And what do you think about it tax time?
Hello, Steve. Good to be back after a nice World War II trip in Europe.
We'll get to.
Highly recommended to anyone. But anyway, yes, tax time is behind us now. And, a lot of times people are upset if they owe, or if they're happy if they have a refund. But it's time to sit down and say, well, what worked and what didn't work. As you mentioned with estate planning, are all my beneficiaries on my life insurance, on my IRAs, on my 401ks, even bank accounts. Having beneficiaries is important at every level, especially power of attorney. So if you get sick, you need to have that power of attorney in place without any question. But what I think about mostly with taxes is tax planning. And
Absolutely.
That's actually coming October, November, December. I recommend
you got to plan ahead.
CPA.
That's right. You got to be thinking about where you are. And certainly if you're a small business owner like me, you've got to be looking over the horizon all the time to figure out, okay, what's my liability going to be? How am I going to protect myself? How are we going to keep, because something that I think I've heard you say, it's not just what you earn, it's what you keep, right? It's not just it's what you keep so that you can invest and create wealth, right?
Absolutely. What you said about small business owners is spot on. I have 3 check-ins with my CPA: tax time, mid-year to evaluate how things are going, and then end-of-year tax planning. And even if you don't have a small business, you still need to do that end-of-year tax planning. And like you say, keeping what you earn. Let's make our investments grow, but let's do it on a tax optimized basis. Roth IRA, Roth 401k, HSA, these are critical.
Right. I suggest, honestly, Nick, anybody that can create a small business, and pretty much anybody can. It costs you $50, I think, to set up a business in Michigan to get registered, right? Set up a business of some sort. Sell something, do something, because then things become a write-off. And if you're doing something that you're doing anyway, even if it's a hobby, turn your hobby into some sort of a business where you're making a little bit of money maybe, and then you get a chance to save on taxes. Because if you ran to the store, well, I needed something for the business. If you have to go down and do something, you did something for the business. I had to buy something, and you can write some things off. If you've got more than 10 acres, I think the greatest thing in the world is a Schedule F. If you can create a farm income or an attempt to make a profit, you can write off all sorts of things under the Schedule F. These are things that you can think. This is long-term planning, but things that I think about anyway. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I love the entrepreneurial spirit. When you go to school these days, they don't teach you how to think like a business owner, and that's really a tragedy in my opinion. So
Agreed.
when you have that entrepreneurial spirit, like you say, something that is a hobby, maybe you can get paid, maybe you can operate it as a business. Just be careful of those hobby loss rules and consult with your CPA.
Well, yeah, it's got to be a business. It's got to be legitimate. And yes, talk to professionals, because the CPA is who you sit down with to do your planning anyway. And that's true. Regardless of who you are. Now, and you're right about colleges. It's a complaint that's legitimate, which is they teach people how to plug into the system and get a job for a company. They don't teach you how to own the company that people plug into. And that is a problem, Nick.
It is. And just last night, I was a guest lecturer at Washtenaw Community College here in Michigan. And I made a point to talk about that entrepreneurial spirit, some things that, the students don't typically hear about in class on a day-to-day basis.
What'd you tell them? What do you tell them at a lecture like that? We got a minute or two here. I mean, I'm curious what you share with young people.
Yeah, well, I talk a lot about mindset, okay? When you are in class, you're going through, studying, trying to get that A, and you're memorizing a lot of stuff, and that's fine and good. but they're not teaching you how to think like an entrepreneur. They're not teaching you how to work on your communication skills. You're not learning how to understand different personality styles. You're not learning about sales. You're not learning about cash flow and budgeting. You're not.
Sales, which is, something that sales run the world in many regards, right? I don't care if you're selling John Deere tractors or advertising on a radio program, whatever it is. Sales makes everything move around, and you're right. We don't see that anymore. And the concerning thing is that with the pandemic, so many people went, basically into their houses and didn't come back. That interpersonal relationship, because sales, like you're talking about, it's about relationships, whether it's a relationship with my CPA that we discussed, my tax planning, or relationship with clients. No matter what your clientele is, no matter what your business does, you have to have relationships, don't you?
You do. And when we sit down with a potential client, oftentimes they're seeking out new advice because there's a damaged relationship, or they're not hearing enough from their advisor. There's a lack of communication, maybe a breakdown of trust. It's not always about bad results. It's about that relationship more often than not.
Yeah, I agree with that. I have a bad relationship with the IRS just because I don't like them. They don't know that. I don't tell them that. I hope they're not listening. I don't like the IRS.
So you're
Nick
the one.
Hopwood. Yeah, I'm the one. I don't like them. Certified financial planner, founder, president of Peak Wealth. Where do they find you online?
We're happy to offer a second opinion. Reach out to us at peakwm.com.
Peak, WM as in wealthmanagement.com. Nick, we're going to find out about that World War II trip. I'm going to have you back for a special session just to talk about your experiences of going across the English Channel and going to the beaches and so forth. We'll talk about that. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Steve. Have a good night.
Really appreciate it. It's a trip that I want to do, and he just did it. Went over to Normandy by way of the English Channel. Fascinating trip. He was telling me about it. I'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show.